I'm real late to this one. Guess I didn't do my homework. So I have checked out the first couple of episodes. Boy, I'm off to a great start right now. Of the Doctor Who spinoff Class. I will get around to the rest of it. I have no doubt. I'm not going to make any promises about how soon that I do that. These first two episodes were commissioned. But, since I've started, I might as well finish the thing. But again, I'm not doing that on a schedule. So who knows? And when I finish the season, I'll make something else. If I have enough thoughts to make a main channel video, maybe I will. Otherwise, they'll just show up here. Regardless, it's a weird idea. So this is set at the Coal Hill School, a location that, in hindsight, Doctor Who as a franchise has a weird amount of reverence for. This is the school that the Doctor's granddaughter, Susan, was attending when she was pretending to be human, and the two other first companions besides Susan, Ian and Barbara, were teachers at Coal Hill. That was it for about 50 years. And then it kind of came back because when Clara Oswald began teaching, that was where she taught, meaning the Doctor was briefly the caretaker there. But generally when you make spin-offs, you center them around characters. Or like if the setting is big and grand enough, you set them, around an unexplored aspect of the thing. That's arguably kind of been the case with Star Trek over the years. Let's do one where they're on a space station. Let's do one where there's folks like way out in an unexplored area and they don't have the resources of Starfleet at their disposal. And those have generally completely new cast of characters for the most part, but that's kind of the exception. Generally, when you spin off from characters, as Doctor Who's done before. Did with Sarah Jane Adventures, did with Torchwood, spinning off with Jack. This spins off on a location. And a location that up until this was just a school. Like, yes, a little bit of weird stuff happened there in, series 9? But not a lot. Not enough to distinguish it from literally any other setting within the world. But here we are with this. I don't think it's unkind to say attempt at a somewhat more adult Buffy riff. They make a Buffy reference like straight up in the first episode. And yeah, it's borrowing heavily from Buffy. It is more of an ensemble piece. While there are, the unusual special ones among the cast, it feels much more ensemble right off the bat than something like Buffy did. But while we do get some of Peter Capaldi's Doctor in the very first episode, this is just a strange decision. So Coal Hill School is so unimportant that the first episode basically has to invent a scenario that will be their equivalent to the Hellmouth from Buffy, and they even cite that as a comparison, and just allow for more weird stuff to happen in this specific location so that we can have a bunch of 20-somethings pass themselves off as teenagers for however many seasons this manages to last, which turned out to only be one. And look, it's not bad. It's not. It's a weird pitch, though. Especially because, it's surprisingly violent. Not just with deaths. Deaths happen in Doctor Who a lot. On a pure body count level, Doctor Who has been violent for quite a while. Arguably since the very beginning, but definitely since the revival. Yeah, it's quite violent. And actually, honestly, there's some stuff that the show did in the 70s and the 80s that it's a bit like, what the hell? If you haven't seen Dragonfire, holy crap, what were they thinking with some of that stuff? But that stuff like that is the exception, because what I'm alluding to from Dragonfire is outright gory, which Doctor Who generally isn't. It does technically have a high body count fairly often, but you don't get a lot of people being covered in blood. It happens in both of the episodes that I've seen so far, and it stands out. And part of what makes it seem weird is, again, I can't help the Buffy comparison, and this practically invites it. Buffy, a bit like Doctor Who, for as much as it dabbles in violent things, it doesn't have a particularly adult edge to it. So it's odd to me that, like, you're spinning off from Doctor Who, ostensibly a show for all the family, and you're giving distinctly teenage characters in a school setting, which theoretically makes it less enticing to an adult audience, but you're also ramping up the gore quite a bit. I feel like this is trying to slip into the niche that Torchwood ill-advisedly slipped into in its first couple seasons. So, how do I explain this? So one of my big frustrations with Torchwood in general is that it is adult in the most immature way possible, especially in its first two series. It is adult in the sense that people have sex and they swear and there's blood. But like the actual subject matter is frequently incredibly juvenile. Now, Torchwood is at its best when it deals with actual mature topics and adult concepts in episodes like Adrift or pretty much nearly the entirety of Children of Earth. Those are way heavier concepts, and that's where it's at its best. It almost kind of feels like Class looked at what Torchwood did and went, okay, if Torchwood's best stuff was when they took themselves seriously and dealt with more adult, complicated topics, maybe we can take just the part of that was kind of sophomoric and immature and just kind of do that. I mean, it's not to that extent, you know, people aren't getting naked, they aren't swearing, but like it does kind of have that. It's jarring how much gorier than Doctor Who this is, honestly. And part of me wants to say I think it lacks an identity, but I don't think that's true. I think it has an identity. It's just an odd one, at least to me. It's trying to wedge itself in between a couple of other things, and I'm not sure there's enough space there to validate this. I haven't really talked about the cast. They're fine. They're solid. I do appreciate that while, you know, they are a bunch of high school characters, and they are initially kind of sketched out pretty simply. You have the younger one who has skipped ahead several grades, who's especially smart but a little bit awkward with overbearing parents. You have the sort of teacher's pet kind of a character. You have the jock. You have the alien boy who is both gay and also, frankly, coded very heavily autistic, which, look, the character's fine, but, you know, the taking neurodivergent, type behavior and just slapping it on a character that's not even human it is innately kind of an issue. It's one of those things that's like, it's not that there's no justifiable way to do it. It's just that it happens so damn much. And in a lot of cases, it feels like it happens a hell of a lot more than actually just having a neurodivergent human goddamn being. But, you know, they're and of course we have the teacher who fills the slightly suspect morals badass, because yeah, it's usually good to have one of those on hand. But despite them, you know, all kind of slotting into an archetype of one kind or another, they actually sort of bounce around and give a decent amount of depth to each of them, just even in a few short episodes. Like, surprisingly, like, we deal a lot with the jock, because like in the first episode, his girlfriend gets killed in front of him. When I say in front of him, I mean he gets covered in her blood. And the second episode is dealing with the fact that he is frankly traumatized by that. And also the fact that his leg got cut off and he now has a high-tech prosthetic that he doesn't really know how to use properly. And he's the jock, and now he's not doing as well at football as he was. That's, soccer, UK football. Anyways, that they do a much, I don't want to oversell it as like a super deep dive, but they bring a lot more to that character and to that setup than I was expecting out of a show like this. I was expecting the characters to be more thinly spread, which I think leans into the idea of what I said. I don't think it's lacking for an identity, but what it is being is it's a pretty narrow bandwidth. But I do think this actually has a pretty strong sense of identity, and I can definitely see why there are people who would latch onto it as something that really had potential, because I think it's one of those things where if you're right in the lane, if it hits you right in the right way, I could see this like really connecting with some audiences. How does it connect for me? Okay. I mean, not bad, not good. Just kind of is. Like, again, the performances are fine. It is like gorier than I would like it, and also I'm tempted to ding it for the sort of casual cruelty that, say, Chibnall's era of Doctor Who did. Except that if I'm being fair, casual cruelty is actually kind of an intentional energy of the thing at times, that like people are dying and no one's doing anything. Whereas in Doctor Who, it pretty much always felt like an unforced error that didn't belong there. Whereas here, it honestly fits a little bit more with the atmosphere. But at the same time, I'm not prepared to say that this is some kind of lost masterpiece or hidden gem. Again, like if it hits you right in the right way, I think you'd like it a lot. But it is very specific, and it is ultimately kind of silly. Like the second episode has the football coach who has a dragon tattoo that's actually a trapped alien, and that alien's mate is following around and killing people. And it's silly. But it does take itself relatively seriously, but then it kind of bumps up to some of the problems that, shows like Doctor Who and Buffy have always had, which is it has to be made on a TV budget. And sometimes when you get to show us the monster, you're like, oh, okay. Like in the first episode, you've got these shadow monsters, and actually the initial way that they're handled is really cool. Like you just see shadows moving. It's not the Vashta Narada, but you just see shadows moving, or like it gloms onto somebody, or like a shadow grabs somebody's wrist, and there's actually a fair amount of tension, and you find yourself looking at the shadows in the background to see if they're shifting. Creates a little bit of paranoia, but then we get a more proper look at what are called the shadow cannon. I'm like, oh, okay. Dude in the suit, bad, red glowing eye effect. Got it. Cool. And it kind of does kind of deflate it a little bit. I feel like people are going to want me to talk about Miss Quill, who's the teacher character. She's also an alien. She's kind of linked to the other alien character and they're kind of both the last of their kind. And they were kind of put at Coal Hill by the Doctor. That's sort of the backstory going on there. And like she's fine. Like I don't think any one character stands out on their own, but I think the show balances the group dynamic and the ensemble pretty well from pretty much the start. Yeah. I think what it is doing about as well it was going to be done. It's just a question of whether or not what it's doing works for you. And for me, I don't know. Like I've got somebody commissioned me to take a look at least the first few episodes of Sarah Jane Adventures. I'm honestly kind of terrified to do that because like I know that that's just not for me, and I just can't get on its wavelength. And that doesn't make it bad, but I'm gonna have to cross that bridge. Whereas this, like, I'm not sure I'm on its wavelength, but I can see its wavelength. And like, I'm close enough to wave, and it would see me waving. So like, I can't quite get there, but I'm also like, I see you. Yeah. No, fair enough. Yeah, very middling kind of take, I suppose. Not to say it's a middling show, just that I don't know what else to say at this point. Class, first couple of episodes. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills, is how I was commissioned to take a look at this, and is what enables me to do this as my living. Even if you can't help me out that way, like, share, subscribe, those all help. Don't worry too much about it, though. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can just come on back next time you need a break. And now to thank my highest supporting patrons: Robin Moore, Jared Boyce, Zubin Lafula, Auntie Kate 808, Mara G, Angry Casperol, Dave Hall, Oliver B, Mystic Shadow, Sean Miller, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Melissa Pedersen, Becky Sparks, Twilord, Tracy Scrabbit, Pal Barabajoggle, Magdalena, Sir Didymus is my favorite. And to thank some supporters from the lower tiers, thank you to Wordmaker, Lucy Llewellyn, and Beginner's Mind Podcast. And if you want to hear me say your name as well, you can check out the rewards on the Patreon, and there's other stuff besides, and it'll help keep these absurd creatures fed.